Hello everyone, this is Sam from Language Atlas, and in this video I'd like to show you the complete Spanish A1 Anki Deck. I refer to it as complete because it contains both the Spanish A1 Grammar Anki Deck and the Spanish A1 Vocabulary Anki Deck. So it is a complete package. It has everything you need to know to learn Spanish. In this video, we will go over three things. First, I'd like to show you the course structure, the complete Spanish A1 Anki Deck. Second, I'd like to show the course content. And I'll do so by having a look at three Anki decks within the overall complete Spanish A1 Anki deck. And third, I'd like to show you some brief editing options. So before I get started with my first point, I'd just like to note that there are in fact two versions of Spanish. We have the complete European Spanish A1 Anki deck and the complete Latin American Spanish A1 Anki deck. Now, the European one just refers to the Spanish that is spoken in Spain, and the Latin American one refers to the Spanish that is spoken in Latin America. Now, once you go to languageatlas.com and you get the deck, you have to choose which version of Spanish you wish to get. Now, my advice to you would be to just take a moment and think about what type of Spanish you're really interested in. Are you more interested in Spain or more interested in Latin America? This is a very important choice. And in this video, you will see both versions, but just take a moment for yourself and decide, okay, which version do I actually want to get? So that was it. I'll start with my first point, which is show the course structure. Now, I've already double-clicked on Anki decks, and I've opened them. As you can see, they're right over here. I'll begin by showing the course structure of the complete European Spanish A1 deck. But before I do that, I'd just like to say that in terms of course structure, both of them are the same. But when it comes to the course content, that is where they differ. So complete Latin American Spanish one has different sentences, different words, audio, pronunciation, IP notations, etc. But in terms of how the cards are set up and the structure, they are the same. So let's begin with the European Spanish one. We can see that there are three decks inside it. There are two grammar decks and one vocabulary one. We have European Spanish A0, A1, Introduction to Spanish, and we have European Spanish A1, both the grammar deck, and we have over here European Spanish A1, which is a vocabulary one. And of course, as you know, language is a combination of both grammar and vocabulary. So I'll begin with this one, European Spanish A0, A1. We see there are 5 chapters: pronouns, verbs, idioms, articles and nouns, and questions and interrogatives. When we look at chapter 1, pronouns, we see we have the basic subject pronouns, they, we, you, I, he, she. Please note we have vosotros over here, which will not be there in the Latin American version. We have chapter 2, verbs, the most basic verbs to be and to have in Spanish language. Chapter 3, idioms, some basic idioms, how to say there is, there are, my name is, I am from, I am numbers, years old, I live in, how are you? That is a question to ask, so how are you, how is someone? When we go to chapter 4, articles and nouns, we see we have the basic articles, we have the, plural, the, and a and n. We have chapter 5, questions and interrogatives, we have what is it, so how do you ask what is it in Spanish language? Now, the A0, A1 is just the very, very basic version of grammar. Now we can go to, let's say, the real deal at the European Spanish A1. So this is really foundation. This is where we get really started. We have 7 chapters: verbs, idioms, articles and nouns, adjective and adverbs, questions and interrogatives, negations and prepositions and conjunctions. If I click here, we can begin with chapter 1, verbs. We can see that there are 6 subdecks: regular verbs, semi-regular stem-changing verbs, common irregular verbs, irregular verb groups, reflexive verbs, and verbs of time. If I start over here, regular verbs, we can see that we have the regular verb groups. We have AR verbs, we have ER verbs, and we have IR verbs. And within the ER verbs, we have 2 very important ones. We have deber and leer, must and read, to read. When we go to 1.2, we see we have the important semi-regular stem-changing verbs. When we go to common irregular verbs, we have the basic important common irregular verbs: to go, to play, to put, to want, to tend to come, to see, etc. When we go to 1.4 irregular verb groups, we see the important irregular verb groups. Some examples: AER verbs, GER and GIR verbs, UCIR verbs. We can go to 1.5, we see reflexive verbs. So what are reflexive verbs? An example of one. When we go to 1.6, we have verbs in time. So we see some different tenses: the present progressive, the present tense, the near future. We contrast the two, and we have forming regular gerunds. So that was chapter 1, verbs. When we go to chapter 2, we have the idioms. So how to talk about the weather, how to express an obligation, when to use estar, when to use ser, and others. When we go to chapter 3, articles and nouns, we have 4 subdecks, or 4 groups, I should say: nouns, contractions, indefinite articles, and definite articles. Over here, we have, for example, complete guide to Spanish nouns, how to know the gender of nouns, introduction to regular nouns. We have contractions, so al and del, the important ones. We have indefinite articles, so how do you say some or a few. We have definite articles, use definite articles with clothing and body, of course. And that was chapter 3, articles and nouns. Now I'd like to go to chapter 4, adjectives and adverbs. Again, we see 6 groups: regular adjectives, quantitative adjectives, demonstrative adjectives, adverbs, possessive adjectives, and other. So introduction to Spanish regular adjectives we have over here. How to say each plus a noun, how to say every, and then a time unit. We go to 4.3 of demonstrative adjectives, how to say that, those, and this, these. We have adverbs over here, how to form regular adverbs that end in mente. We have possessive adjectives, how to use possessive adjectives in Spanish. Some others as well. We have how to use color in Spanish, how to say very, a lot of, much or many, how to say more, less, or fewer. Then we go to chapter 5, which is questions and interrogatives. So some what questions in Spanish, the fact that they start with que. Chapter 6, negations. We have how to negate in Spanish. And we have chapter 7, preposition and conjunctions. So important preposition and conjunctions, how to say with, by, on, in, at, above, about, above, over, on, those ones. Now I'd like to go to the European Spanish vocabulary one. We click on this icon over here and can see what's inside. We have 9 chapters: pronouns, conjunctions, verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, determiners, and numbers. If you click on chapter 4 nouns, you can see that we have 20 subjects inside it. And essentially what I've done is that I have taken a look at all the nouns in chapter 4 nouns and I've categorized them by theme. So we have, for example, academia and intellect, animals, arts and entertainment, body and health, clothing and fashion, all the way to time until time, maths, numbers, and transportation. So whenever you wish to learn a certain theme within the nouns, you're able to do so. So that was a quick overview of what you can expect when you do the complete European Spanish A1. And again, I'd like to note that in terms of structure, the European Spanish, Latin American Spanish is the same. I'll just show you the Latin American Spanish now. And let's have a look at the Latin American Spanish one. So again, we have the 3 subjects. We have the A0 A1 Introduction to Spanish Grammar. We have Spanish Grammar A1, and we have the Vocabulary 1. You can see there are 5 chapters right over here. There you go. And I'll do the same thing for Latin American Spanish. You can see you have the chapters, and the content, of course, of the chapters as well. And one thing I'll show you over here is Vocabulary 1, the subjects. So you see exactly the same. Only one small difference that I just like to show you. We have no vosotros over here because it's the Latin American one. So again, there's of course structure. They're the same, but what's inside the deck, the audio, the contents, the sentences, the words, etc., that will be different. Now, before I move to my second point, which is the course content, I just like to say that I've made videos, separate videos on the grammar one at A1 level and the vocabulary one, another video. So if you wish to have even more examples, if you wish to have a more in-depth look, you can have a look at those as well. But I think for now, this already suffices to give you a good overview of the course structure. Now I'd like to go to my second point, which is to show the course content and have a look at one deck within the complete Latin American Spanish A1 and 2 decks within the complete European Spanish A1. And I'll just begin with a example of a vocabulary deck. I'll go to chapter 4 nouns and I'll click on location. And before I do this, I just want to say, even if you're interested in the other type of Spanish, I'd urge you to keep looking because the way that the cards are set up, the examples that you see, the structure behind it is exactly the same. But of course, the actual words, the actual sentences, audio, those things, that of course will be different. So even if you're interested in other Spanish, I urge you to keep watching. So what do we see over here in our first deck, nouns location? We see that we have a Spanish sentence over here with 2 underscores, 2 blank areas. We have the English translation of the Spanish sentence, and we have a certain part bolded and underlined, a hospital. And a hospital is what we need to know, but then in Spanish, of course. And that is what goes over here. We have, underneath that, we have a picture, and this picture is a visual representation of the Spanish sentence. So this is here so you can understand the Spanish sentence, but also many studies have shown that you are able to better remember concepts, words, and sentences if there is a picture there. Your mind creates a link to that picture, which will be really helpful, of course, if you want to learn a new language. So how do we say a hospital in Spanish?
Este no es un hospital público. El hospital, un hospital. Los hospitales, unos hospitales.
Great. So let's have a better look at what we have seen over here. We have 3 areas, a sentence area, a singular area, and a plural area. We'll begin with the sentence area. So this is the answer that we were looking for. Over here, you can see how to say a hospital in Spanish. And you may note that this part is in blue. Why is this? That is because Spanish is a gendered language. All nouns are either masculine or feminine. And in this deck, whenever you do nouns, you will see that all masculine nouns are blue and all feminine nouns are pink. This allows you to immediately identify the gender of nouns, and this will be easy for you to memorize it as well. So underneath the Spanish sentence, we have the IP notation of the Spanish sentence. This is here so you can better pronounce the Spanish sentence. We have the English translation of the Spanish sentence, and finally we have the audio.
Este no es un hospital público.
Great. So this is, again, I mentioned the singular area. So here we have the singular noun in its definite form. Here we have the singular noun in its indefinite form. We have the IP notation. We have the English translation, and we have the audio.
El hospital, un hospital.
This is the plural area. We have the noun in plural form. We have the IP notation. We have the English translation, and we have the audio.
Los hospitales, unos hospitales.
So I would like to note that if you were to do the European Spanish one, in terms of structure, in terms of setup, it would be exactly the same. Singular area, pardon me, sentence area, singular area, plural area. But of course, pronunciation, words, IPA notation, audio, that kind of stuff will differ. So another one. I studied law in college, or university if you will. How do you say college?
Yo estudié Derecho en la universidad. La facultad, una facultad. La universidad, una universidad. Las facultades, las universidades, unas facultades, unas universidades.
So great. We see the same structure. We have the sentence over here, the front, and in the back we have the sentence area, the single area, and plural area. However, you may note that now the noun is not in blue, but it is in pink. Why is that? That is because the university in Spanish is feminine. And I mentioned before, if it's a feminine noun, you will see it in pink. The bank has a lot of money. How do you say the bank?
El banco tiene mucho dinero. El banco, un banco. Los bancos, unos bancos.
So let's have another look again. We have the sentence area with the singular area. We have the plural area with the Spanish, IPA, the translations, and audio. We visit the same place every summer. How do you say the place?
Visitamos el mismo lugar todos los veranos. El lugar, un lugar. Los lugares, unos lugares.
Wonderful. My family met me at the airport when I arrived from Paris. How do you say the airport?
Mi familia me recibió en el aeropuerto al llegar de París. El aeropuerto, un aeropuerto. Los aeropuertos, unos aeropuertos.
Great. My family has a regional food restaurant. How do you say a restaurant?
Mi familia tiene un restaurante de comida regional. El restaurante, un restaurante. Los restaurantes, unos restaurantes.
And again, you can see you have the sentence, the singular noun, and the plural nouns in all the different forms, all the different ways that you need to know it. So that was the first card type where we saw a blank area and we had to know what goes inside the blank area. Now I'd like to show you the second card type. And the second card type is a typing exercise. And the second card type, what is really important is if you know how to spell the correct word. So this is the one. Yeah. And again, I mentioned we have the same sentence over here that we've seen before, but this time we have to type in the correct answer. And again, let's have a look and see if we are able to spell the word correctly.
Mi familia me recibió en el aeropuerto al llegar de París. El aeropuerto, un aeropuerto. Los aeropuertos, unos aeropuertos.
And you can see because I spelled the word correctly, the answer shows up in green. However, what if I do not know the correct answer? What if I were to do something like restaurante, something like this?
Mi familia tiene un restaurante de comida regional. El restaurante, un restaurante. Los restaurantes, unos restaurantes.
Now this is where it gets interesting. So I had the answer nearly correct. So what I had correct, Anki shows in green. However, I used an M for Marie when I should have used the N for Nicholas. And Anki shows the incorrect letter in red because I had it wrong. And over here, the correct letter shows in gray. So the second card type actually tests if you can spell the word correctly, which is of course very important when you learn the language. This will help you a lot when it comes to improving your spelling. I could continue like this, but then we would see more spelling exercises. So I'll show you two grammar decks inside the complete European Spanish A1. I'll begin by showing you verbs, regular verbs, and then regular ER verbs. And then after it, I will move to the last deck, but I'll begin with this one. So what do we see over here? We have something which is not that quite that new, but a little bit different. We have a Spanish sentence with a blank area. We have the English translation of the Spanish sentence. We have a picture, which is a visual representation. I eat you every day. But this is new. When you do a verbs card in the grammar deck, you see that in the middle you have the verb that you need to conjugate. So comer. And how do you conjugate comer with yo? Let's have a look.
Yo como aquí todos los días.
Now, you may have already noticed the difference. The audio is different. Have a look.
Yo como aquí todos los días.
And that is because we're now dealing with European Spanish, not Latin American Spanish. And again, in terms of setup structure, they're the same, but in terms of the actual content, so the audio, the IPA notation, these kind of things, that will be different. So again,
Yo como aquí todos los días.
and the voice, of course, will be different as well. So we have the Spanish sentence over here, the English translation, and audio. But underneath it is something new. When you do any card from the grammar deck, you will have a grammatical explanation on the backside, as you see over here. And this is here so you can understand what you're doing, and it's there for help as well. So this is a conjugation table, and this will help you to conjugate regular ER verbs. You see the ER verbs endings. And over here you see it applied with comer, to eat. In this case, yo como, we have the O ending over here, and we have the other endings over here as well. We have the regular ER verbs conjugation method. So you find the infinitive, which is the full verb, you cut off the ER, and you add the new ending. So comer, we see over here you have the ER ending, we get rid of the ER ending, and then we add the new ending. We have the common regular ER verbs, and then you see some common regular ER verbs, so aprender, beber, comer, etc. And over here on the right side, you see the translation. So vender, and we have then to sell. Let's do another one. You drink too much. We see beber, and we have to conjugate beber in the to form.
Tú bebes demasiado.
Again, we got rid of the ER ending, we got rid of the ER ending and added the ES. And you see the same conjugation method, and you see the common regular ER verbs. Which foreign language do you learn?
¿Cuál lengua extranjera aprende usted?
Again, we have the usted and then the E ending. We sell orange juice. Nosotros, what is the answer?
Nosotros vendemos jugo de naranja.
Can you see the nosotros over here? The hemos ending, hemos. Oh, pardon me. Hemos ending. One more. Do you promise me salvation?
¿Vosotros me prometéis la salvación?
And you may notice we are doing a vosotros one because we are doing the European Spanish one. In Latin American Spanish one, you will not see vosotros examples. The students answer the teacher's question.
Los estudiantes responden las preguntas del maestro.
There you go. And we've seen the first card type, and this is the second card type, which I mentioned earlier, which is a typing exercise. And then we type it. If it's correct, it will show up in green. If it's incorrect, it will show up with a bit of red. But you have already seen that, so no need to explain any further. Now I'd like to go to the third and last deck, and the one that I'd like to show you is one in Chapter 2 idioms, and I'd like to go to when to use estar. And many people asked when to use estar, when to use ser. Well, you can train it. Let's have an example. Let's have a look at an example. Again, we see a Spanish sentence with a blank area. My socks are dirty, and then you see a picture of some dirty socks. And
Mis calcetines están sucios.
great. So because you did the estar deck, you know that it will be different variations of estar. But why actually? Why is this the case? Now over here you see introduction to when to use estar in Spanish. We have two ways to say to be, ser and estar. In this little lesson, you will learn a nice trick, a mnemonic device, condition, location, ing verbs, feelings, and relationship status. So when you think of estar, think of Clifford. We have some conditions over here. We have some locations, progressive terms, progressive tenses, pardon me. We have feelings, relationship status, and conclusion to when to use estar in Spanish. Whenever you talk about something temporary, you'll use estar. My phone screen is cracked.
La pantalla de mi teléfono está rota.
And again, do you know which of the ones it applies to? Let's do another one. You look beautiful today.
Hoy estás muy guapa.
And again, do you know which one it applies to? In this case, a little bit easier because we're looking at it. Physical condition, you look beautiful today. Let's do another one. Are you sick?
¿Tú estás enfermo?
Again, Condition: my room is filthy.
Mi habitación está sucia.
Let's do another one. My desk is tidy.
Mi escritorio está ordenado.
And one more. I am in Milan.
Estoy en Milán.
Temporary condition. Very easy. So whenever you do a deck, you always have an explanation status. And over here, you can practice it in a safe environment because you know the answers will be different versions of estar. However, when you click on, for example, chapter 2 idioms, click on this little study now and you will see sentences. And then you will not know if you're dealing with a estar or a ser example, and then you have to know it. But of course, you practice beforehand. So hopefully you will have the correct answer. And if not, that's okay as well because we are practicing and you will learn. So that is what I wanted to show you. Those were the 3 decks that I wanted to show you. I'll now like to go to my third point, which is to show you some brief editing options. Many people ask me, how do you regulate how many cards you do and see per day? Very simple. Click on this little icon next to the Complete European Spanish A1 or Latin American Spanish, whichever one you prefer. Over here, you see new cards per day and maximum reviews per day. And this regulates how many new cards you do, and this regulates how many reviews you do. We can change this from 65 to 100, for example. And reviews, we can change it to 100. And a review is just a review, something that you've done before that you will do again. Numbers increased. Click on options. I can decrease it as well to 25, for example, or 20, maybe even better. Lower number, 20, 20, and the number decreased. Now, my advice to you would be to pick a low number. 20, I think, is a good example. Language learning is all about forming a habit, creating a habit, and sticking to it. And it's easier to do so if you have a low number in the beginning rather than a higher number. But of course, once you've established a certain rhythm, a certain habit, then you can increase how many cards you do per day. So that was it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed my explanation of the complete Spanish A1 Anki Deck. I'd like to note that I will share all the necessary information, all necessary links in the comment section and description. You can get the deck at languageatlas.com. And again, this will be noted in the description. Once again, I'd like to highlight the fact that there are 2 versions of Spanish, European Spanish and Latin American Spanish. You have to choose which one you get once you go to Latin American Spanish. When you go to languageatlas.com. Please take a moment for yourself to note which one is really relevant for you and then make a decision based on that. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I wish you the best of luck when it comes to learning the Spanish language, whichever version it may be. And again, you can choose which version it is on languageatlas.com. Thank you for watching my explanation of the complete Spanish A1 Anki Deck. Wish you the best of luck when it comes to learning Spanish and a very good day as well. Goodbye.